Here are the stories we're covering this week in the Category 5.tv newsroom. Microsoft is acquiring GitHub. The FBI is advising users of consumer-grade routers and network-attached storage devices to reboot them as soon as possible to counter Russian-engineered malware that has infected hundreds of thousands of devices.
How's the contacts tonight, Sash? Just asking. I just want to know. Is it working out?
Can we increase the font size?
Apple on. Are you okay?
Apple on Monday previewed a variety of security and privacy features it plans to add to macOS and iOS operating systems, including encrypted Facetime group calls, password management tools, and camera and microphone protections. Asus has staged its annual Computex keynote and shown off a laptop with dual screens. But it's not at all what you're imagining. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
Jeff Weston.
Yeah, man.
You're building a brand new, beautiful website.
What?
Aren't you?
No. Am I?
Oh, you're a terrible actor.
What?
This is where acting comes into play.
Oh, I didn't know we were acting.
You're supposed to act.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, I'm building a really cool website. Are you building a really cool website? Just because Jeff is confused doesn't mean you have to be. Visit cat5.tv/dreamhost to sign up for unlimited web hosting for your website with unlimited email accounts, MySQL databases, the latest version of PHP, WordPress, and more, and even a free domain name registration. It's less than $6 per month, so sign up today. cat5.tv/dreamhost.
This is the Category 5.tv newsroom, covering the week's top tech stories with a slight Linux bias.
I'm Sasha Rickman, and here are the top stories we're following this week. Microsoft is acquiring GitHub. After reports emerged that the software giant was in talks to acquire GitHub, Microsoft is making it official on Monday. GitHub was last valued at $2 billion back in 2015, and Microsoft is paying $7.5 billion in stock for the company in a deal that should close later this year. GitHub is a large code repository that has become very popular with the developers and companies hosting entire projects, documentation, and code. Apple, Amazon, Google, and many other big tech companies use GitHub. There are 85 million repositories hosted on GitHub, and 28 million developers contribute to them. GitHub will now be led by CEO Nat Friedman, who will report to Microsoft Cloud, and Chief Scott Guthrie, GitHub CEO and co-founder Chris Warnsworth, will now become a technical fellow at Microsoft, also reporting to Guthrie. It's easy to imagine why Microsoft would want to acquire GitHub. Microsoft killed its own GitHub competitor, Codeplex, in December and is now the top contributor to GitHub. Microsoft now has more than 1,000 employees actively pushing code to GitHub repositories. Microsoft has struggled with the developer love for years, and it's a big part of the reasons Windows failed and Windows Phone failed and its universal Windows apps platform hasn't taken off. The question around this acquisition will be what Windows does with GitHub in the future. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella says we are committed to being stewards of the GitHub community, which will retain its developer-first ethos, operate independently, and remain an open platform. We will always listen to developer feedback and invest in both fundamentals and new capabilities.
This one's an interesting story.
Did not see that coming.
No.
No, I mean, when it was first announced, I was like, really? Mm-hmm. Of all the people to buy it, Microsoft? Because Microsoft, I mean, granted, I'm not a huge Microsoft fan, but they're known for taking things and absorbing them and killing the life out of it.
That's
examples?
My take. Do you have an example?
Just everything.
Just like my soul.
No, but I mean, anytime Microsoft has acquired stuff, I feel like there's always been community support around whatever it might have been. I'm blanking on things right now, but then Microsoft takes over and you get that major corporate feel.
But have they taken a more open source approach as of late, like the past, say, 3 years? Have we kind of got that impression that...
I don't think so.
No?
No, I mean, when I switched over to Windows 10 on my home PC, I don't feel more open source.
Not with their software, but with their approach to the developer channels and things like that.
I guess a little bit, but I mean, this is completely open. I mean, that's the great thing about GitHub is it's totally open source,
right?
And so the
people
idea
can
that
contribute their own code to your code.
The culture of it seems so positive.
I'm afraid Microsoft's going to ruin it. I really am.
How can you ruin something that's so big though? Like
by watching
Microsoft is huge, obviously, but as long as they don't change it, the fundamental underlying, and they say that they're keeping that open ethos of how it works, how it operates, and the underlying mindset of GitHub. Because if you create a piece of software and publish it to GitHub, now I can say, oh, I really wish that software would do this, this, and this. So I can sit on my computer and I can make it do this, this, and this, and then I submit it, what's called a pull request to your code.
Right.
So now you can absorb that change into your own software, and that's what makes it great. It's a community. It's a cloud platform that allows developers to help each other better open source.
Right. And I get that.
Yeah.
So are they trying to shift then?
Well, I don't know. We don't know yet. What are they trying to do? Obviously, now they own, like, the place. Linus Torvalds from Linux, the developer who created the Linux kernel, develops it and publishes via GitHub.
Right.
So, you know, should we watch his watch his page and see if he changes his mind? Maybe he would say, you know, because I imagine he's watching this very closely, and he's going to say, okay, well, let's back up.
He's now putting his entire system in Microsoft's hands.
Essentially.
Yeah.
But with that comes their capability of aggregating all the code of the universe that is on GitHub.
Okay, that was going to be my next point. Is you are now handing over, and the fact that he's reporting to the cloud, I mean, it's not like it's just a server somewhere. I mean, Microsoft is going to access this from all over, just like you can with GitHub. But are they going to somewhere in their user agreement have some sort of weirdly worded legal thing that basically says, you're giving this to us to host for you, therefore we own it,
right?
Or we have the
it's
ability
open source.
to...
It's licensed under GPL, under various open source licenses.
Okay, that may be the case, but if you have some amazing block of code within your program, who's to say that Microsoft, with their new AI that they're working on, isn't going to go, ooh, that's great code. We're going to take that component, put it into our Microsoft software, and you don't get a penny.
But don't they have the right to do that anyways?
I guess, but but if they now own the platform, does that not add some more?
But them owning the platform does not mean that they own the code. They can't make it their own and say, it's ours now. No, because if it's licensed under GPL, now the product that they've absorbed it into has to in turn be licensed under GPL. That's the agreement behind that license.
I still wonder if there's going to be some legal loophole because you're hosting it on their server.
I don't know. Time will tell, Jeff. Time will tell.
I'm just skeptical.
But you mentioned AI, and I think about the aggregation of the code, and we think about the fact that the CEO of their AI division is now becoming the head of this. So, hey, maybe there's something in that.
That's true. The FBI is advising users of consumer-grade routers and network-attached storage devices to reboot them as soon as possible to counter Russian-engineered malware that has infected hundreds and thousands of devices. Researchers from Cisco's Talos security team first disclosed the existence of the malware last month. The detailed report said that the malware infected more than 500,000 devices made by Linksys, Microtech, Netgear, QNAP, and TP-Link, known as VPN filter. The malware allowed attackers to collect communications, launch attacks on others, and permanently destroy the devices with a single command. The report said that the malware was developed by trackers working for an advanced nation, possibly Russia, and advised users of affected router models to perform a factory reset or at minimum to reboot. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has also issued a statement advising that all Soho router owners power cycle or reboot their devices to temporarily disrupt the malware. As noted in the statement, rebooting serves the objective of first, temporarily preventing infected devices from running the stages that collect data and other advanced attacks, and secondly, helping FBI officials to track who was infected. The statement said that the FBI is working with the nonprofit Shadow Foundation to disseminate the IP addresses of the infected devices to ISPs and foreign authorizations to notify end users. Authorities and researchers still don't know for certain how compromised devices are initially infected. They suspect that the attackers exploited known vulnerabilities and default passwords that users had yet to patch or change. The advice to reboot, update, change default passwords, and disable remote administration is sound and in most cases requires no more than 15 minutes. Of course, a more effective measure is to follow the advice Cisco gave to users of affected devices and perform a full factory reset, which will permanently remove all of the malware, including the first stage of the malware.
Thanks.
I feel like this story happens often. This is a particularly large one in that
a lot of manufacturers' devices are affected.
Right. I mean,
but we don't know a whole lot about the cause. Like, what's the root underlying cause here? And so they can say passwords and remote administration built into the devices. So is it that somebody's written a really good bot, maybe using machine learning, for example, and attacking many different routers and detecting, oh, this one's a Netgear that I'm attacking right now, so let's iterate through all the default passwords for Netgear devices. Oh, look, they've got remote administration turned on the router. Boom, I'm in. Boom, I've installed my malware.
Right, and we don't know yet who started this and what its
They're
end
accusing
reason.
Russia.
They are,
and
but
I hate to think that they would ever do something like that without knowing that there's some tie to Russia or any other culture.
Right.
So there must be some kind of evidence, geolocation or something that's pointing that way.
There must be something. It must have been framed. But
yeah.
I wonder, okay, so if you reboot your router, that's great, or
so
you
it's just power cycling, like we looked at last week, where internet goes down, restart the router.
Exactly. But in this particular case, without this news story coming out, I wouldn't know that my router would need to be rebooted for anything. Should I just be on a schedule of doing that? Or what?
Yeah, just factory reset every week.
Every once in a while. What can I do?
Wow.
Like, I feel like, how would you know your router had malware?
Yeah.
Like, that's a weird one, because...
And I think sometimes it comes down to not necessarily just using the devices that are provided by your ISP, because they're usually the most susceptible. They're getting the bottom dollar on the most amount of devices that they can buy for cheap so that they can install them on all their sites. And they're not always the most secure devices, and they're not always patched and up to date and everything else. And they have default passwords. And by default, we don't tend to, hey, ISP came in, set up our Wi-Fi, and we use the password they gave us.
Well, I mean, how many people, when they get it from their ISP, there's a sticker on the back that says this is your password, and the technician writes it on there.
You change
it?
True
enough. You can change it, yeah. But I think it predominantly has to do with not necessarily the Wi-Fi passwords so much as, because then someone's got to be sitting in the car within 2 kilometers of your house in order to do it, which is still a problematic
remote
thing.
Access.
It's remote access through the internet, because remember, this device is connected to the WAN, the internet.
Yeah.
And if it has a default login password that you would use, you ask the question, can you change your Wi-Fi password? Yes, you can. By logging into your router, going to the wireless setup and changing your password. Well, what if you didn't change the password to log into your router? That's the problem. A lot of times it's like admin password. So if that's what it is, and somebody's bot has found my router and can get into my router with admin password, then they have access to my network. So I said, you know, maybe don't just trust, and I said don't just fall back on this device that the ISP gives you. Maybe we need to supplement with an internal firewall that's between my network and the internet, that's in addition to what the ISP is giving me.
Right.
And that would help protect, because here's the fear, Sasha. As soon as someone can get into that router, a lot of them are powered by Linux, for example.
Yes.
They may be able to open up SSH connections so that they can now connect into it and access any of the computers on my network. If it's not Linux-based, if it's not SSH compatible or have that capability, they can easily get in and open ports in my network, port forwarding. Yes. And they can set up, for example, they can see every computer's IP address on my network, because those IP addresses are being dished out by the router.
Right.
If I had a supplemental device that was dishing out those IP addresses, the router would never know what they are.
That's correct.
That's where it would help. So if they can see all the IP addresses on my network, so they see your desktop computer, your laptop, your phone, they're going to look at that desktop computer and figure, hey, most likely that's Windows, so let's open port 3389 just to test. Let's see if Samba is open and turned on, like file sharing. If network file sharing is connected and turned on so that you can access your files on your desktop from your laptop, well, they can now open that up to their own computer.
Right.
They can access your hard drive, and guess what? Your C drive is shared under a hidden share, and they've got full access to your computer. So there's a lot of fear there with what they can be capable of by compromising that one device. So we can reset it to knock them off of it if they're on. We can factory reset it to remove what they've done, but then we've got to reset up everything. Or we can,
if you do that, please don't reuse the same passwords.
Yeah, we can wipe it all and do all that, and then supplement with a good firewall, and maybe that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Thank you. Still scary nonetheless.
It can be. If you have questions, if you're not sure anything that I just said, please send them in. Go to our website, category5.tv. Make sure when you go to contact us that you select that you are sending in a question for the show. Otherwise, it may go to the wrong inbox and never get answered. So make sure you're selecting that it's to go to the show.
Apple on Monday previewed a variety of security and privacy features it plans to add to macOS and iOS operating systems, including encrypted FaceTime group calls, password management tools, and camera and microphone protections. Apple also released a beta version of the upcoming iOS 12 that apparently kills off 2 iPhone unlocking tools used by law enforcement around the world to access phones without knowing the unlock code. The feature, known as USB restricted mode, requires that users unlock their iPhone with a password when connecting it to a USB device. It requires a password each time a phone that hasn't been unlocked in the past hour tries to connect to a device using a Lightning connection. The password requirement largely neutralizes iPhone unlocking tools provided by companies called Celebrite and Grayshift, which use USB connectivity to bypass iOS restrictions on the number of incorrect PIN guesses that can be entered into an iPhone. With those limitations removed, police can make an unlimited number of PIN guesses when attempting to unlock a confiscated iPhone, often aided by a robotic unlocking system. Previously, iOS betas had USB restrictions that required the entering of a password when it hadn't been unlocked for 7 days. Those USB restricted modes were later removed before Apple issued final versions of the iOS. The restrictions this time around are much more stringent because police would have no more than 60 minutes between the time that they obtain an iPhone and connect it to an unlocking tool. We should remember that that Apple has previously removed USB restricted mode before releasing final versions and may do so again with iOS 12. The new beta also features end-to-end encryption, built-in password management, and several privacy enhancements. So
sounds great. Let's switch to Apple.
Well, how can I get that, but without having to get Apple? Like, how can I get that without an iPhone?
Good question. Chat room, this is one for you folks.
I don't know if you can.
I want all of
I've
that.
never heard of that USB locking mechanism in an Android phone. I haven't heard of that. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
I want it.
I'm pretty phone, like I'm not a phone guy.
Right. I want my privacy.
Chat room, do you know of anything that
users?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because this is one of the things is that they're making it so that because you guess the password 10 times and all of a sudden it locks you out
right
permanently, kind of thing.
Right.
But if they're using a tool over USB, it makes sense that, hey, if we disable the USB connection until you enter the password, now they can't do that.
I like it.
I like that feature a lot.
I want it. I just don't want an iPhone.
I know.
I wonder if there's like a software that's been developed that you can download through, the Android store or something.
Well, you know what? I don't know that it would be supplemental. It's going to be a core OS feature, right? But I could imagine that if it doesn't exist in Android,
it will soon.
Yeah, the idea behind it is non-proprietary. I mean, how can you patent something like that, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
I'm sure that someone will make something similar on Android, part of the Android OS. But will it be, what if your phone can't be updated to version 9 of Android?
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, and that will be part of it, is that it won't be entirely backwards compatible. But like, I have a Samsung phone, and there is the Samsung App Store device that comes with my phone. So I can see Samsung themselves developing an app that becomes part of the internal system that goes, hey, do you want this? You can download it, and then that's part of the core of your phone.
Who wouldn't
It'd be no
want?
different than if you had, like an LG or something that they could maybe develop their own version of it that you could download from.
Okay.
I could see something like that happening.
The Foo has a phone that uses NFC and a YubiKey in order to enforce two-factor authentication.
Okay.
And I just wonder, the Foo, if that would prevent the capability of plugging in a USB cable and adding these backdoor patches that remove those restrictions. Like, could I don't know what the government has as far as capabilities.
No.
And so,
Nor do they want you
can
to.
they bypass that? But definitely, I mean,
Government secrets? What?
two-factor authentication is a good idea. I think also that simply, for myself, like, I don't keep anything private on my phone.
No.
I would just have to change my Google account password and things like that.
You just feel like you want your stuff to stay private, though. Like the things you've chosen to be private.
Sure.
You want them to stay private.
Yep.
So if I'm giving my phone over, say at the border, say they do a thing where they just want to check your phone at the border, I don't want them to.
We are apparently now a national security threat.
I hear.
Canada?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
dear.
2 weeks ago.
Don't want
declared-
to get into that.
And
Don't wanna get
also,
into that. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, let's talk about this really cool
you know
new
what's
laptop.
really a much better story?
Just for
Jeff?
the record, we are benign. We are so. Please forgive us for anything we have done, because that's the Canadian way.
Exactly.
We're so sorry.
We are sorry. Asus has staged its annual Computex keynote and shown off laptops with dual screens, but it's not at all what you're imagining. The ZenBook Pro 15 is a 15-inch notebook packing up to a hex-core Core i9 with 16 gigs of RAM, GTX 1050 Ti graphics, and a 1 terabyte solid-state drive.
I'm sorry.
I know. It has a main 15.6-inch screen capable of 4K, Ultra HD, and it has a second screen which is different from anything we've ever seen. It's a full HD multi-touch screen in place of the laptop's usual touchpad. Asus has called this the Screen Pad and has designed apps including a calculator and custom controls for Microsoft Office and YouTube to run in it. The laptop goes on sale next month for $2,300 US.
Oh, I love the idea.
I really like it. I love where this world is going. When can
Why
we get
didn't we
one?
think of
Test
this
it,
earlier?
Try it? I want
Come
it.
on, manufacturers. This should have been around forever. This is
It's just
smart.
like-
It's a beautiful idea, but
What?
However, this is Jeff.
how
The
many,
butt.
No, but how many times do people go, I dropped my laptop? Like,
So you get a
but now,
OtterBox for it.
but now, but not a box isn't good for a laptop, really.
Maybe.
But, okay, like if I was to drop this,
Don't. It's mine.
I know, but if I was to drop it, chances are I'm not going to be damaging the keyboard. But now if you've got a screen and you have a glass plane that is your keyboard, you drop that sucker, you've doubled the chances. I feel like for the accident prone, not a smart purchase.
Why
Okay,
are you
so
raining on this parade of
For
awesome?
the record, Mr. Butterfingers over here, PSA, don't drop your laptop, especially if it's $2,300.
There, now it's a great idea.
Yes. Just don't drop it.
I really want to just get my hands on it and like I want to see what it feels like. I feel like I'll feel like I'm in like Minority Report or something. I don't know.
I think to me it reminds me of what I thought the Switch should have been, like with the touch screen and everything interacting with the TV.
Yeah.
And maybe it is for some games, but I like that idea that it's got hotkeys. My Wacom tablet for drawing, which I'm not an artist, but my daughter is, has a lot of hotkeys and stuff around that you touch them with the pen and it does certain actions and things. And I love the fact that this touchpad now becomes an action center that can be, you know, maybe app developers can create apps that will supplement your applications.
Now, as somebody who codes all the time, how would that change in physical dexterity impact the way that you type? Because, I mean, I'm sure you could be looking at your screen and just plunking away.
Oh,
and
yeah.
physical change of the key.
So,
if you can
no, Jeff.
Wait.
Okay, back up.
Can I? Okay.
Say it.
What if you have your hand scanned on it and then it automatically customized
You
the
guys know
keyboard?
nothing about this. No, it has a real physical keyboard, just like your normal laptop. But your touchpad, the touchpad that you use, your mouse, has been replaced with a touchscreen.
Okay, then I misunderstood the news story. I thought it said the whole keyboard.
No.
Oh.
No, we're
You could
talking
be
the
better.
touchpad is a multi-touch touchscreen. I know, it's hard to understand. She has bad vision. Don't make fun of her.
It's because the letters were white and she read them green.
Now does it make sense? Do you like it now?
It does.
It's
now
amazing.
it's cool.
It is. It's not as amazing as I thought it was. I'm picturing like 2 planes of glass.
It's going to be a
No.
big touch screen because it's going to have a calculator.
I just went from here to
There
there.
you go.
It's going to
Now do we get the news? Now do we understand what's going
I
on
do.
here?
It's not
Now
as
do
big
we
for me
understand
now.
what's so cool? I think it's even
So-
better than what you were thinking. Because
Okay.
what you were thinking was
Now he's like, now I
nonsense.
can drop it. It's
What you were
fine.
thinking was nonsense.
No, I don't think
It
so.
made no sense. Who would ever make that, Jeff?
I just thought it was neat. I'm like, that's cool.
When Sasha said it is not like anything you're thinking, she didn't mean it that way. Like that the presenter would completely not understand what it is that they're making.
That's it. I've had enough of this.
I know.
news.
I
Take us
know.
away.
Yeah.
Big thanks to Marshman, Roy W. Nash, and our community of viewers for submitting stories to us this week. Thanks for watching the Category 5.tv newsroom.
Like and subscribe.
Tune in here for all your tech news with a slight Linux bias.
For more from the Category 5.tv newsroom, visit our website, category5.tv. Thank you for watching. I'm Robbie Ferguson.
I'm Sasha Rickman.
And I'm Jeff Weston.